Since last March, there were nearly 3,800 reported incidents of hate toward Asian American and Pacific Islanders.
I think we got a lot more reports than the government would.
The incidents range from verbal harassment to physical assault.
They said, our respondents, that they didn't want necessarily individual redress. They wanted a voice to say, this is happening, and we want policies to stop it.
The deadliest attack happened on March 16th.
Some tragic news, the deadly shootings in Atlanta.
21-year-old Robert Long charged with killing 8 people in 3 separate massage parlors last night.
6 out of the 8 people killed on Tuesday night were of Asian descent.
President Trump clearly stoked the flames of xenophobia against AAPIs with his rhetoric.
Since the outbreak of the coronavirus last year, President Trump tried to shift blame from his own management of the pandemic to China.
I think we have 19 or 20 versions of the name. Chinese flu, Wuhan virus, Kung flu.
When President Trump insisted on using the term Chinese virus, it racialized the virus. It wasn't just biological, it was Chinese, and he stigmatized Chinese people as the carriers of the disease.
I am proud to be Asian. I belong here. I belong here.
This, unfortunately, is not the first time China or Chinese Americans are being blamed for a disease, and racism and violence against Asians has always come in waves throughout U.S. history.
So you can see that in the plague outbreak in San Francisco in 1900, because the first person in San Francisco to die of plague was a Chinese American. They were sort of blamed and scapegoated for the outbreak, even though the outbreak likely came from Hawaii aboard an American-Australian ship. There were other plague outbreaks, and later on in 1907 and 1908, but because they weren't in the Chinese community, they were squashed much more quickly and taken more seriously by authorities.
Even outside of a virus outbreak, the U.S. is no stranger to anti-Asian racism. In 1882, the Chinese Exclusion Act banned Chinese immigration for 10 years.
Even after that, there were very strict guidelines for allowing Chinese people into the United States that weren't repealed until 1943.
But around the same time, soon after Pearl Harbor, FDR signed an executive order that forced 120,000 Japanese Americans into internment camps. This policy lasted 4 years. In 1982, in Highland Park, Michigan, 2 white men targeted and beat to death 29-year-old Chinese American Vincent Chin because he was Asian. The judge gave the men probation and a $3,000 fine.
So that's what community looks like. This is what community looks like.
Anti-Asian racism has been an invisible stain in American history. It is often overlooked or minimized.
The Asian American community is left out of public conversation around racial justice. And that's what's unique about this moment that I think you're seeing, unfortunately, because of these gruesome attacks, a movement sort of building among Asian Americans.
But what I've seen Asian Americans do, and which is actually encouraging in this dark moment, is that you can go into flock mode, right? You could go to flight or fight mode, or you could flock. And that's when you gather together to protect each other, when you gather together and stand up to whatever threats you're experiencing. And I see that